This is exactly why I don't track my calories and how to this day I'm able to maintain a slender physique that I'm reasonably happy with, really happy with in fact, and a decent control and awareness of what's going into my body without the daily use of my MyFitnessPal chronometer or any other, frankly, nutrition tracking app or software. This is precisely how I do it and still stay in relative control. First thing I want to say here is the content you make filters your audience. So as I've spoken a lot about, hey, you don't actually need, I believe, to track your calories every day to ensure results on the scale. Calorie counting is not, has not got the monopoly on that's the way to lose weight, that's the done thing. There are other ways to do this without actually having to track every gram of food that you eat every single day. Of course, this has filtered my audience and I've attracted a lot of people with the same view, a lot of people that are quite understandably maybe sick and tired of the relentless calorie counting. And what I'll often notice though on this subject is in my comment section I'll see, yeah, we're with you, Ryan, just eat the whole foods and don't worry about the calories. You don't have to when you eat whole foods. Eat as much as you... No, that's not what I'm saying. It's boring, I'm being diplomatic perhaps, but no, there's nuance here that people miss. So that's the first thing I want to make crystal clear here. This video is called Why I Stopped Tracking My Calories. That doesn't mean that I don't think calories are really important. That doesn't mean that I don't have a system that thinks about calories too, and I'm going to share that with you in just a second. Now, next I'd like to say the calorie counting teachers are not wrong when they rightly claim that calorie counting is the most precise way to guarantee that the actions you're taking every single day give you the best possible chance of actually manipulating your physique. Calorie counting teachers are correct. And that's the first thing I want to say. I'm not just taking some binary black and white view in the tribal times that we live, that calorie counting is the devil, and you don't need to worry about it whatsoever. Again, boring, I'm being diplomatic. Some may call me the fence sitter for this, but there is absolutely nuance here. The calorie counting teachers are right, but where I beg to differ is there's other ways to maintain precision without having to track, as I say, on an app every single gram of food you ate. And this is precisely, to cut to the chase now, exactly how I do it. I build repeatable meals. And for me, this has been the secret. Simplicity is king. You've heard that message from me a lot here. I eat the same meals day in, day out. I know that breakfast is about 575 calories for me. My oatmeal and berry breakfast. It's about 575 calories. Bang, done. And that's just one example. As I'm going throughout the day, I'm just having the meals that I always eat. I've said many times on this channel, one of the greatest hacks for weight loss is eating the same foods every day. And as such, we're talking about content filtering people. I don't attract the foodies, I don't attract recipe types, and I don't make those videos myself. It's just not my MO. It's just not my style. I just eat the same foods day in, day out because I'm relatively simple eater. Of course, I like good food. I make sure my food tastes good, but just give me the routine, man. I love the routine. And the more I've submitted to just eating the same couple of meals, same 4 or 5 meals every single week, the better my health and fitness results have got, lo and behold, because that element of control that you get from the repeatability has absolutely been a game changer for me. Of course, the other end of the spectrum, or devil's advocate rather, is, hey, every now and again, Rye, don't you need something to mix it up before it gets too stale? Yes, absolutely. But the same principle then goes into that, the same thinking. I plan the calories, I design the meal in the first place. I look and work out with calculators online and such. So that's tracking that I do, but once it's built, it's one and done. So I make that, whatever it is, the chickpea and cauliflower curry, and then I know precisely what it is. And then, here's the key, I still measure. Because I'm a believer that what gets measured gets managed. And of course the calorie counters in my audience may say, Ryan, that's just what calorie counting is on a hyper level, on the most crucial sort of omnipresent level. And again, you're right. I've been doing this a long time. I know myself, I know what motivates me, I know what turns me off, I know what is key to my own adherence and consistency, and sometimes I'm wrong, and sometimes I get proven wrong on those things, and actually there's something that really works for me that I think that wouldn't. So yeah, maybe that stubbornness at times, I'm a bit belligerent, but generally speaking, I know what I need for my adherence. And so there is a level of tracking that I am willing to do, but there's a level of tracking that I'm not willing to do. And so for me, that has been the key. Build the meal, You know how many calories it is. I eat the same meals every single day, and then I know, okay, I'm finishing the day at 2,500 calories here, or 2,600, or whatever it is. Now, I roughly do know my targets, and this is an important thing as well. I know ballpark the range that allows me to lose weight, because I've been doing this for so long, maintain weight, and therefore subsequently gain weight. And so I've always got my eye on these things, and again, that's the layer of nuance that I wish to add here, is on one side, we've got meticulous calorie counting and tracking. On the other side, we've got sod all that, just eat whole foods. You don't need to think about calories when you eat whole foods. And I would say I'm not even in the middle, I'm more this side. The calorie counters are right. But I've just found that I don't need to do it. I don't need to do it, and it turns me off to be all in with tracking every gram of food I eat. And so I just build repeatable meals that put me in the appropriate calorie range according to my goal. And that's how I do it. And for me, that's been far easier because then it's one and done. As I say, I'm repeating myself now, but once I've built the meal, it's into my diet, it's into my rotation, I know it works. And then if my goals change, I just need to manipulate that meal a little bit. If I'm in maintenance mode, maybe I get a little bit more avocado or tahini or the healthy fats or the dried fruit, the more calorie-dense plant-based items. If you're new here, I'm following a plant-based methodology. And so that's the manipulation that comes with the goalpost shifting, of course. So it's not to say that once I've built a meal that it never changes for years and years and years. But this is the approach that's allowed me to kind of marry the freedom of not having to look at the darn phone all the time and track everything with also just some element of, again, freedom is maybe not the right word because there's still rules, there's still strictness, there's still rotation, there's still structure here, but just some semblance of just chill, eat what you will, eat the meals that you've already built and just have the peace of mind to know it's putting you in the right range, but you don't need to check every single day. So the first reason why I've stopped tracking my calories, therefore, to summarize, is because I don't actually need to. That's number one. The second reason, and this is in hierarchical order, so for me it really is mostly, well, I don't need to because I eat in the right calorie range anyway without having to my diet doesn't change that much. Perfect, fine, done, simplicity wins in that regard. Second reasons for secondary importance are really, and I talked about this idea 5 minutes ago, it kind of turns me off, I know what affects my adherence, etc., etc. One, I like to have the flexibility to sometimes give myself a little bit more food. And that's not to say that I couldn't do that still under the general guidelines of calorie counting, because I could still wake up one morning, sense that my appetite was pretty sharp, think about, the amount of time I'd been in a calorie deficit, for example, think about all the training. It's a little bit more steps I've got over the last couple of days than usual. The glycogen's a bit more depleted. I am feeling noticeably more hungry. I'm going to give myself permission to add 200 calories here today. Yes, I could still do that with calorie counting. What I've found is, though, the more that the Holy Grail is that app and that calorie target, the less intuition I have around the edges. Now, ironic, I'm not an intuitive eater. Don't believe in that nonsense either. Just eat how you feel. What? No. Again, we need rules, we need strictness, we need structure. But once you've got the structure, I do believe in some flexibility again around the edges. And there's days where I want a little bit more food. There's also adversely, days where I actually don't need as much food. Today is one of those, for example. It's a rest day for whatever reason. My appetite is down, even lower than my usual rest days anyway. And so I think the weather's playing its part. It's a bit grey. It's still really, really cold here. We've had snow dumpings. And so I'm just not moving as much quite naturally. And so I'm listening to that instinct and I'm like, well, I am going to eat a little bit less today and that's fine. Now, again, I could do this all with the app. What I've realized is I don't tend to. From that 18 months of calorie tracking that I did back in the day, I don't tend to give myself permission to be as flexible when I'm beholden to the numbers. So that's one reason. The second reason is maybe a deeper and more intangible reason, but it's a relationship with food affected. Now again, some people can track their calories every single day and it actually benefits their relationship with food because it brings an awareness and it might be a rite of passage. Again, I did it for 18 months, so this is not a video today where I'm saying nobody should ever track their calories. Please note this. I'm just saying why I don't, explain why I don't. But also some important context here is I did this for 18 months of my life, every single day, more or less, at least 360 days of that 18 months per year, whatever, so 500 days. And so I've done it. And maybe that's the rite of passage, is you have to do it to learn what food looks like and the caloric and macronutrient content. And perhaps, hopefully, you're looking also as well at the micronutrients. And we haven't even talked about that, but selenium, fiber, etc., 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 magnesium, to make sure you're hitting those, the RDIs for those things too. But anyway, I digress. So I've learned a decent level, you would like to think after all these years, of course, about what my diet looks like, and about what's in certain foods as well that aren't even in my diet. And so aren't in my diet today, I should say. And so that's really, really useful. Just that context in your head, that reference experience, that bank of knowledge that you build up, that can really help you in the moments as well where maybe you aren't measuring and weighing, etc., etc. Anyway, again, not like me, I digress once again. Can't recall precisely where we were, but yeah, that other negative side effect, actually, just getting sick and tired of seeing food in a very quantitative manner and not necessarily a qualitative manner, or maybe quantitative but more so in the micronutrient sense, than carbs, protein, fat, calories, all the time, all the time, all the time. I also noticed when I was calorie counting, and so, sorry, I haven't really ended that loop, but just what that does to relationship with food at a certain point, once you've improved your relationship with food in the way that calorie counting does permit you to, by learning a lot more about what's in your food, you kind of get to a bit of a glass ceiling where it's diminishing rate of returns. What I found happened to me is, actually now my relationship with food is getting worse after rightly doing calorie counting for some time, and the awareness that subsequently brought, because I'm now just seeing food numerically all the time. And again, to go back to a previous point, I'm turning off those instincts about my appetite's slightly lower, or it's more today, or I've got an instinct today that the healthy fat might need to come up, or hey, I've had a couple of big training days lately, let's go a little bit harder with carbohydrate. Oh, the app doesn't tell you to do that. Yeah, but let's go a little, I can feel it, let's go a little bit harder with the carbohydrate. Again, some intuitive eating elements to this, which I've just battered as a concept, but flexibility around the edges to listen to some of the instincts that our body gives us. You've got to be careful with that one. Depends how much you trust yourself, of course. But anyway, once again, he digresses. But yeah, just the negativity that created, and negativity is a vague word. Let me think about this more specifically. The numeric, that quantitative, that's how I'm seeing food now. That my relationship with food became at that point, didn't like it. And that subsequently leaked into the next negative side effect, which again, calorie counting doesn't guarantee that this happens, and you can still do this without calorie counting. Again, I want to make that perfectly clear. It's not necessarily that the method guarantees does this to you, definitely does this to you, but this is precisely what happened to me, and it was off-putting, the more that I was beholden, again, to the calorie amount, the more I realized I was being flexible with my diet, the quality of my diet, the nutrition quality. And, I can fit some chocolate in here. And again, there is an argument for balance, and there is an argument, and the flexible dieters, I'm going into different topics here, and the flexible dieters do have this right to some degree, that maybe it can help your consistency to bend the rules a little bit. And I'm a rule bender with my own diet to this day. I'm not perfect. I'm not a whole foods Puritan all the time. I've confessed this, actually. It's really part of the philosophy I've landed on, is about 90% whole food seems to be really agreeable to me personally and really realistic nowadays. But what I found with calorie counting in those 18 months, I wasn't doing 90% whole foods, and I wasn't tempted to, because I was like, oh, this is that many calories, we'll fit it in. And again, so many days where I'd go over the calories because I was then eating junk foods, trying to fit the little treats into my diet, but getting no good bang for buck satisfaction per calorie of that junk food, versus eating more whole foods focused. And so again, this is, after all these years, this is where I've landed. I'm now far more whole foods focused, but still with an eye on the calories. And that's where I talk about this slightly vague sounding concept, I admit, of like calorie consciousness and calorie awareness, as opposed to meticulous calorie tracking. And that's what's changed the game to me. Build repeatable meals that you know the calorie amounts of. If your diet doesn't change that much, brilliant. If your diet does change much, my approach isn't going to work for you. If you're a foodie that needs a lot of variety, you're probably not watching this video anyway, because you're not going to be attracted to my stuff, because I am, a meticulous day-to-day eater. I always talk about, again, this core rotation of 5 to 6 meals that I eat each week, and they might vary, but it's then, once a week has started, it's about the same 5 or 6 meals. Sometimes, like this week, it's been like 4 different meals. If that, I'll probably get to the end of the week only eating 4 different types of meals over the week. Most days it's the same 3. So and that's how I've been able to do it. And so I'll finish on what I started with. The secret here is, or what has been rather the secret to me is, understand the importance of the calorie law. That is the most surefire way to guarantee manipulation over your physique. Precision with calories is not something to be underestimated or just dismissed as a terrible thing for all people, as is often said by the critics of calorie counting. No, again, I think there's some reasonable middle ground here. There's an argument for calorie precision and tracking and the awareness that that can bring, but it's something that I haven't needed to do, and doing it for a long time, I did notice some of these negative mindsets seeping in through the process of calorie tracking. And so this is what I've landed on to this day. So it's still respect for calories, it's still understanding that they really do matter, but rather than actually having to track every single calorie, every single gram of food you eat, what has changed the game for me is having a system that puts you in the right calorie range for your goals anyway. That's been fantastic. And obviously that's what my clients get, because I handle all the numbers for them, the carbs, protein, fat, calories, etc., fiber, etc., etc., etc. So they just know exactly what and how much to eat to get results on and off the scale. If you want help, this is precisely how I work with my clients. If you'd like me to build a meal plan for you, hold you accountable every step of the way as we lose a very realistic and sustainable, I add 4 to 8 pounds every single month. Again, this is what I do for my clients on Slim and Sustain. The links will be down below.